Democrats led by the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler now considering a radical move known as packing the court. You may have heard it. That is expanding the number of Supreme Court justices in an attempt to balance it in their favor if President Trump's pick gets through. Congressman Doug Collins is set to introduce a new constitutional amendment to block Democrats from packing the court. He's a Georgia Republican now running for Senate in the Peach State. Congressman, good morning to you. Thanks so much for coming on. It's good to see you. You've said you want to, quote, take the heat of the moment out of the debate. What does that mean? How does this work to stop Democrats from packing the court?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that Congress can set the number on the court. And so if they want to act in the heat of the moment, as Jerry Nadler and many others say, that they just don't like the way this is going because they don't like President Trump, they don't like the fact that he's going to get this pick and it's going to get confirmed before the election, then they're going to say, well, if Joe Biden wins, then we're going to be able to expand the court and we're going to just overrun whatever the President Trump does. Here's what my amendment does. It says that if any law like that were to come about, that it would have to wait 10 years to actually become effective. So that really, at the end of the day, would say if you want to have a discussion about enlarging the court, it needs to not happen in the heat of the moment or just because you pitched a temper tantrum and didn't get your way. And I think that's a better way to look at this instead of this rush to judgment when the president's doing exactly what he's allowed to do and the Senate's going to do what they're supposed to do.
Are you seeing support for that amendment?
We've heard, and it's been amazing. Not only up here on Capitol Hill, there's been some folks who have been talking to us about supporting. Look, unfortunately, don't think Speaker Pelosi would come anywhere close to it, but I will tell you who is supportive, and that's the American people. We've heard from folks all over the country that say this is one of the best things that they've seen in a while because they're tired of the Supreme Court, being this lightning rod, and they're ready for the president who is up for re-election to do his job, and I think he's going to do that. Everybody wants to compare this to Obama a few years ago and not getting his appointment. Well, President Obama was a lame duck. He was not up before the voters. President Trump is up before the voters right now. They will judge him on this pick. And remember, I believe that he won in large part because he committed to conservative principles, and a mainly conservative jurist was one of the big reasons that I think a lot of people turned out in 2016 to vote for him.
It's been 9 on the Supreme Court for quite some time, hundreds of years here. This is a Democrat-led movement to pack the court, to extend it past 9. But you have Joe Biden, presidential candidate and former VP Joe Biden, already on the record saying this about it. Listen to this.
Let me tell you, I'm not going to answer that question because it will shift all the focus. That's what he wants. He never wants to talk about the issue at hand. He always tries to change the subject. But let's say I answer that question. Then the whole debate's going to be, well, Biden said or didn't say. Biden said he would or wouldn't.
Congressman, why won't Biden say he is for or against packing the court? Why take that stance?
Because he really has nothing to stand for, and he is at the point right now to where he's trying so hard not to offend that he says nothing. This is what America does not like. They may or may not have strong feelings about the President Trump, but they do understand that he's going to say what he means and he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Joe Biden right now is trying to appeal to everybody because he doesn't want anybody to know that he's being pushed from the far left. He's being pushed to do things that most of the Americans do not want to see happen. And so right now he's just in a position to where he doesn't want to make anybody mad, but he won't actually tell anybody what he wants to do. I think that's going to become a crucial element in these last little over 5 weeks, 6 weeks left to go in this campaign.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg is set to lie in repose today at 9:30 this morning outside the Supreme Court building. This is where all this argument is coming from of who fills that seat. I just want to show this tweet really quick, something you put out. It says, R.I.P. to the more than 30 million innocent babies that have been murdered during the decades of Ruth Bader Ginsburg defending pro-abortion laws. With real Donald Trump nominating a replacement that values human life, generations of unborn children have a chance to live. Before I get you to react to that, we actually had Bill Donahue on Monday morning. This was his reaction to your comment.
Abortion is the preeminent issue in this election, and I have to say that most practicing Catholics would agree with that. Yes, there are many different issues that every Catholic and non-Catholic have to consider, but the life issue has to be number one. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the champion of abortion rights when she was at the ACLU. She continued with that. She had every right to do so, and people have a right now to disagree with her and hope that we'll get some woman in there who might be more respectful of the rights of the unborn.
Congressman, is Roe v. Wade the preeminent issue in deciding Ginsburg's replacement?
It should be one of the biggest issues, but it's also not just the life issue. It's also the issue of Second Amendment. It's also the issue of religious liberties. It's also the issue of government control in our lives. It's the issue of a justice who believes that their job is to interpret the laws and not legislate the laws. And that's simply what we're talking about here. Is this is a court position that Donald Trump has the ability to pick, and he has talked about conservative justice, and conservative justices have those kind of mentalities that the court is not a legislative body but an interpretive body, and we've seen that when they get outside that lane, we see attacks on our religious liberties, we see attacks on our Second Amendment and First Amendment rights, and also we see attacks on the unborn. And I just want to see that stop, and I look forward to this pick.
You know this better than anyone here, the flip-flopping back and forth here. Democrats are saying they don't want to fill the seat, they should wait. That's in 2020. But back in 2016, Democrats actually called for immediately filling the vacant seat on the high court. Listen to this.
The American people deserve a fully staffed court of 9.
The president nominates, and then the Senate advises and consents or not, but they go forward with the process.
What we're seeing here, and I hope this is temporary, is a disrespect for the Constitution.
The Constitution is 100% clear. The President of the United States has the right to nominate someone to be a justice of the Supreme Court. Senate's function is to hold hearings and to vote.
The blockade on filling a naturally occurring vacancy, in my view, is harmful to the independence of the Article III branch.
You cannot.
Congressman, bottom line, you get the picture there. Should these 2020 Democrats, by the way, they're the same as in 2016, should they listen to themselves 4 years ago?
You would hope so, but it just shows the politicization of this. And frankly, again, as I pointed out earlier, they were talking about, and frankly, the Senate did do their advice. They didn't take the nomination. They weren't required to. If they didn't want to do that, and that's what happened, is they said, look, President Obama being a lame duck, they were not going to do it. And if you go back and look at history, that's the way it's been done historically in our country. Only 2 times it has not been done when there's a difference in parties. But what we're seeing here is this is a pick that will be fully vetted. This is the thing that they don't want to talk about. This is a fully vetted pick by the American people, not just by the Senate, not just by the president, but by the American people with an election on November 3rd. If they like what is going on, which I believe conservatives and others who look at this court will, then they'll vote for it. If they don't, they have every opportunity to vote against Donald Trump and then see what a Joe Biden administration looks like. But this is a time to have this debate. It's a time to have this fight. There is a time now.
The president has been on record saying he will announce who his nominee will be this coming weekend on Saturday. The apparent frontrunner right now, as you know, and you've probably heard watching the news cycles, is Amy Coney Barrett. But as you know, she was criticized for being too religious during a confirmation hearing back in 2017. We have a clip of that. Watch this.
Do you consider yourself an Orthodox Catholic?
I am a Catholic, Senator Durbin.
The dogma lives loudly within you, and that's of concern.
Do you see a double standard there, I wonder? Why do Democrats like Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, they get a pass on being committed to their faith, they're Catholics, but Republicans are considered too religious? Help us to understand that.
It's baffling to understand, except that they practice Catholic faith that is out of step with the Catholic Church on these issues, especially of life. What is really concerning there to me, though, was the Dianne Feinstein saying it concerned her that you live the dogma of your life. Now, I don't know what that truly means, except that it was an attack on her actually living out her personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I don't understand why that's even allowed, why that question would even be there. As someone who has been a pastor for 11 years, who's been a chaplain in the United States Air Force for 19 years, religious liberties are one of the most fundamental aspects we have. And if you practice your faith, that is what you're supposed to do. A faith is not something you take on and off like a jacket. A faith is something that you are, and that is what you believe, and you should act out upon it. And to have her question for that is just simply wrong. And in fact, it goes against everything that the founders had intended for our country.
Representative, you've been one of the strongest Republican voices in Congress. You've become a household name when speaking about politics. I know you're running for Senate. How's that campaigning going? Where do you stand there?
Senate campaign is going great. I mean, we're still 6 weeks out. We've had an appointed senator who has tried to buy her way into the U.S. Senate in Georgia. She spent $30 million. We're getting started on our campaign, and it shows that we have momentum and that we're ahead, and that we're in a close race, and that's why we need people to be engaged in it in Georgia, and we're looking forward to being in the Senate to continue these very fights that we're talking about right now.
I know a lot of people are excited. Look, before we go, I do have to get your opinion on this here. I know you've been very outspoken about this new Netflix film. It's called Cuties. A lot of folks are criticizing it, even talking about charges against the people behind it. What are your thoughts on it?
It's disgusting for what it is. And if you read about the movie, you watch clips of the movie, you understand that this is, again, something that is very conservative. When you have actually issues like this that seem to promote this pedophilia, that seems to promote the sexualization of young women like this, it's wrong. I mean, especially when they're this age and you're looking at, they can't even watch the movie, but they're acting in this movie. That's a problem. But it also goes to a fact that we just saw in California just recently, where they're trying to loosen the restrictions about the age of consent between adults and kids. This is a very much of a concern. It's a moral concern, but it's also a concern for our future of our young people. And so I believe that we're asking that this never show up on broadcast TV. We've asked FCC to talk about that, but this is just something that really, these are one of those moments where we as Americans in our collective consciousness need to step back and say, is this really what we want to have being promoted? Is this something we have to say is a good idea? And frankly, it's amazed that Netflix has doubled down on this and kept this fight going.
That is Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.